Writing update. For my legions of fans, I may be rounding up to use that term. The last video I made about this about a year ago, I was starting a story called Psychopathy. That one didn't quite make it to novel length. It was like novella length, which is annoying. So I put that one in a collection of short stories, and I changed the name from Psychopathy to What Sees Unseen. And this one is available on Amazon. And I also wrote 3 new short stories for this collection. 2 of them are new Itari Club stories, which is this sort of dream world nightclub where dark, weird things happen to different characters. Those 2 short stories are called Statesman and Gamer. And let's see, then there's some other short stories that I had included at the end of other novels, like In Tumamunk Woods, which is very short, and Alicia, which is kind of like Cormac McCarthy fan fiction, Blank Slate, which is Sergeant Rock fan fiction. The What Sees Unseen short story is written as a transcript of dialogue between this patient and several different psychologists in an inpatient setting. And I enlisted my Uncle Dick, who is a psychologist or psychiatrist, I can't remember, to be a reader on it, and he gave me great feedback. It's funny, What Sees Unseen tries to make the reader wonder if the main character, Peter, is crazy or like sensitive to real supernatural things going on in the world. And it's meant to be not entirely clear, but it's funny that the psychologist saw everything from the clinical perspective. And he did something that other readers haven't done, which is he wrote down his responses to the story as he was reading it, instead of reading the whole thing and then making a response at the end. That was very helpful. And he gave me a lot of insight into the mental health point of view. The patient goes to several different doctors over the course of the story, and some are definitely better than others. And then the last story in this collection is Tomb, which is a new one about 20-something slackers in the 90s videotaping themselves, exploring a condemned building, and somehow they get lost inside it. This one is like a horror story. With all of these stories, I've been working on ways to sort of implant subversive or subliminal messages of positivity and hope, kind of the opposite of how I see most of modern media. And I tried a bunch of different ways of sneaking in hopeful messages. Some might be more effective than others. Around the same time I published the short story collection, I also published this, which combines the first 4 books of the Tournament of Psionic Murder series into one thick collection. THICC thick, I like this. It has heft. And I had done a bunch of work on the 5th novel in this series, but something happened which pushed that project to the back burner, and that was reading The Black Company by Glenn Cook. As soon as I finished the first novel, I started coming up with ideas for my own sort of version of The Black Company. This story was taking place in ancient Egypt, and the characters were a company of demons inhabiting human bodies, and they were like the close council that managed the pharaoh of Egypt in the 13th dynasty, working towards corrupting the kingdom and bringing it to its fall. At first, I was like, this is so derivative of The Black Company, I can't really get away with it. But as time went by and I wrote in it more and more, it distanced itself from The Black Company. It got its own life, its own characters. So if you read it, you'll definitely see similarities, but more diffs than sames. I started doing just like massive research about ancient Egypt in the time period that I chose, which is the end of the Middle Kingdom before the Second Intermediate Period, which was a time of like more chaos, and there was several kingdoms trying to happen at the same time. Egypt is absolutely fascinating. And just the more I learned about it, the more ideas I had for the story. And I soon saw that this was going to be a new series. I started the first book here in December of last year and decided that I was going to finish it in a year. It's on the final draft now, and I'm planning for a January 1st release of Dogs of Ruin, Book 1. I don't know how many years I have left to live, no one does, but I hope to write a novel a year for the rest of my life. It seems like a good balance between, finally crafting something and following inspiration. I finished the first draft in the spring and sent it out to readers. And so I started working on book 2, planning it out and writing some scenes. And that helped me figure out more scenes to add to book 1. The second draft was a process of adding scenes to book 1. And then the third draft was largely a process of taking stuff away. Right now, I'm pretty happy with book 1. I'm mainly working on the cover design and fine-tuning little pieces of the story. And I've done so much work on book 2 that it will probably be done before this time next year. It will probably be done in the summer of next year, but I don't know. There may be some stuff that goes along in the second book. I have a pretty cool structure for these 2 books. It starts out in ancient Egypt, and there are 6 chapters there. And then there is 1 short chapter of passage, and then 3 chapters in another location, and then 1 short chapter of passage. And then book 2 starts out in another location, and there are 3 chapters there, then 1 short chapter of passage, then 6 chapters in another location, and then 1 short chapter of passage. So it's kind of a mirror situation. One of my readers does not like the denseness of the writing or the tone of the writing. He thinks it's too confusing and the narrator is too clinical. It's strange when you get feedback that you don't necessarily agree with, but is definitely worth considering. This particular reader hasn't read the books that really inspire me, such as The Black Company and Book of the New Sun, and some other books in that vein that I've been reading recently, like The Darkness That Comes Before by R. Scott Baker. I really like jumping into these worlds that are confusing at first. In fact, in some cases, once the confusion has worn off and I sort of understand exactly what's happening, sometimes that's a little bit of a letdown for me. I hate to say it, but I'm learning to use confusion as a way to make the reader more immersed in the story. But it's a fine line, because if there's too much confusion, then they'll just tune out. You also got to give them stuff that they do understand that is interesting and compelling enough to stay with the story. I love this quote by Gene Wolfe. I don't know where it's from, probably an interview, or it might be from Castle of the Otter, I'm not sure. My experience is that subjects and methods are always interacting in our daily lives. That's realism. That's the way things really are. It's the other thing, the matter-of-fact assumption found in most fiction, that the author and characters perceive everything around them clearly and objectively. That is unreal. Anyway, Dogs of Ruin is a rich world of sorcerers and deities and demons, and I hope I'm striking a good level of mystery here. Please check out my author website, toddaddingtonsci-fi.com, for all the latest updates. I might put some author blogs on there. I'm trying to create just a little bit of hype for January when this book comes out. I might do an author signing. And I will probably do a reading of the first chapter for this YouTube channel sometime in about a week. Or should I say a strong. Anyway, thank you for coming back out to space with me in this red area around a black hole. I'm not sure exactly where we are here. The well of imagination? Something like that. Keep reading, keep writing. See you guys for the next one. Peace.